Today we're going to be doing a kettlebell workout. The first half of the kettlebell workout is going to be focused more on the hip and core. The second half is going to be focused a lot more on the shoulder as well as the core. We are going to go through this. Before we touch on the workout, we're going to go ahead and run down some basic things that we need to be focusing on while we're doing our workout. Big one is going to be breathing. In through your nose, out through your mouth. A lot of times when we're doing work, we have a tendency to mouth breathe or sometimes just hold our breath all together. So we're looking at making sure that we're taking those breaths. I will be cueing you during the workout to ensure that you are doing so. A couple other things. We've got our feet down here that are really, really important as we do our workout. Since we are trying to get the most out of our work and out of our time, we want to ensure that we have proper alignment and we're making sure that we're getting proper flexibility as we're going through the movements, and ensuring that is following a alignment pattern that we're going to talk right now. So feet oftentimes are going to want to point out, okay? Very rarely we will have pigeon-toed positions, but oftentimes the toes like to be laterally outward. Now, what this does is this shuts off the glutes, okay? And it puts more emphasis on the front of the leg, okay, as well as the inside of the leg. We want to make sure that we're involving the entire joint when we are doing movements. So we're going to make sure that those feet are completely straight. And if they start to flare out, you're going to adjust them as they do so. Another thing that we're going to be thinking about is grounding our toes. We don't want the weight of our body in the balls of our feet or just toes. We want our weight over the middle of our foot. So that means there's pressure in the heel. There's also pressure in the ball of the foot. And then the toes are putting pressure down. I like to do barefoot workouts mostly because of the fact that you have the best chance of rooting and getting the most out of your, again, work and your flexibility as you're going through your work. Ankles are another thing. We're looking at alignment of the hip, knee, and ankle. And so what happens is we get a knee shift inward, and this drops the ankle down. Now, a lot of times what's happening is it's one side is more so than the other, but oftentimes there's a little collapse in both of those ankles. So we are also thinking about popping up your arch, the inside arch. We're gonna squeeze the toes down, we're gonna press into the floor, and we're gonna kind of curl that arch up and push a little bit out to the sides of our ankles, which is going to make our ankles look straight again. If you want to take a second, you can put your stance at your hip width. I want you to let your ankles just collapse and your knees come in so you can feel it exaggerated. And then I want you to bring them all the way out, keeping your legs straight and pushing your knees out, pushing your hips out, and feeling the arch of your foot pop up. Now go ahead and shift inward again, and then shift outward exaggerated. And then go ahead and hold your arch, keeping your big toe down. That's important. We don't want to push out so much that the big toe is not on the ground. So we want that big toe down. We want the pinky toe down. Going into our hips. Oftentimes, people are sitting in an anterior tilt. So now what happens? This causes the core to not stabilize properly and the glutes to not activate properly, which are two things that we really need to be happening in all of the work that we do. So what we want to do is we want to make sure that our pelvis is scooped under. Now this does not mean squeeze those cheeks, okay? This just means I want you to take your tail and I want you to think about turning it towards your belly button. And as you do this, you should feel a shortening in your lower abdomen area. Okay, now as you hold that lower abdomen, think about just kind of softening back in the glutes, letting them relax, and more holding on to your core. This is going to be something that's going to take some time to learn. By the way, you're going to fast forward through all this stuff once you really get this going, but you'll probably want this for the first few times. Okay, so scooping under. Now, again, holding the lower abdominals. What this often does is put the shoulders forward too. So that's another thing that we're going to be working on, posture, as we're moving through these movements, and that is important. So our shoulders should be in line with our hips. So as we're here and the chest is here, it's going to want to drop down in front of the hip, okay? And then this will cause a little rounding in the back, mostly the upper back, which causes the extra stress. So we're gonna think about lifting the chest on a shelf and holding that chest right above the shelf just so it doesn't touch. Okay, and then we're gonna hold that belly in tight. So there's already a lot of activation happening going on right now. Okay, so we're breathing. We're gonna go ahead and get into the first part of this. We're gonna do some kettlebell sumo deadlifts. This is gonna put some emphasis on the inside part in a stretch. This is gonna engage your lateral hips, which are your glute medius parts of your glute. Okay, very important area that we wanna make sure is stabilizing the hip. We're gonna then go into a kettlebell high knee hold, where we bring our knee up and hold and raise it for 3 seconds, and then we're gonna switch the other leg, and we're gonna play around with that for a few reps with the kettlebell in one hand at a time. We will also do a kettlebell lunge, where we're gonna step back. At this point, I will face this way so you can see my sideways lunge. This is gonna emphasize more of a stretch in the quadricep with a little bit of that glute stability as well. Also a lot of ankle, knee, hip, and core stability. Again, we're gonna use that kettlebell on one side at a time. And then the last thing we're gonna do is a kettlebell deadlift. Okay, so that's gonna be more of the hamstrings. And all of this is gonna be with retraction of your shoulders. So we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna start with the kettlebell sumo deadlift. So I want you guys to go ahead and wherever your kettlebell is, you're gonna step up to it a little wide, and you're gonna bring yourself down, and you're gonna go ahead and start working on trying to push your knees out and keep your chest kind of upright. Okay, so there's a neutral curve in your back. So then we're gonna pick this bell up, and then we're gonna bring it up, and then we're gonna go ahead and move into our position on the mat. So the very first movement we're gonna do is a sumo deadlift. So I want you guys going into a wide stance. Now, this should be wide enough to get into a nice deep stretch on the inside part of your legs, but not so wide that my knees stay in. Okay, so I want to make sure that they're able to come out. So we're gonna go ahead, I'm gonna bring that stance in just a little bit. I'm gonna make sure that my toes are straight, my arms are straight, I'm grabbing onto the kettlebell very securely, and my shoulders are back. Like basically a T is what you're trying to create with your shoulder blade, or your collarbone, I'm sorry. So we're gonna go ahead and go down. As we go down, we're gonna send the hips back. We're gonna bring the belt down right between our feet, and we're gonna sink down into that, and then come right back up to the top. Okay, so now from the side, this is gonna look standing, starting out with my shoulders back. You can see my alignment. I'm over my midfoot. I'm not drifting forward, okay? I don't have a hyperextension in my back. I'm holding my abs tight. My shoulders are back. I'm gonna send my hips back, keeping the belt close to me, keeping my back neutral, sinking down slow, and then going into my standing position right back to where I started. Again, shoulders, they're gonna wanna come here. You are holding them back, you are tightening this grip, you're keeping your elbows straight. Okay, we're thinking about the scoop of the tail. We're gonna go down, again, keeping our abs tight, not allowing a big arch, but not creating a round. And we're gonna come down, and then we're gonna get to that bottom position and come right back up. Okay, so now here's what the deal is. You're gonna do a set of those. Some of you are gonna be able to go down to that position really easy, and maybe a little too easy. Now, those of you who are doing this too easy, it's probably because you're going into your joints and not sitting into the tissue, the muscle tissue. So make sure that when you're doing this, you're keeping tension. Now, those of you who are going in, and as you go down, you're starting to lose your back, and you're starting to lose your ability to control your knees coming out, that means you are hitting a restriction. So what you're gonna do is you're just gonna stop wherever that restriction falls. So if I am someone who has a kind of a tough time getting down here, so I'm gonna do my best, and I'm just gonna try to get as straight as I can. I'm gonna lift my bell up. I'm gonna get into my position with my straight feet. I'm gonna keep my shoulders back. I'm gonna send my hips back and push my knees out until I feel I can't hold this any longer and my spine wants to do this, okay? We're not gonna do that. We're gonna keep those lats engaged because that is gonna emphasize the glutes and the hamstrings and the adductors, and that is what we want. Okay, So doing this, if you are someone who is looking for a warm-up, you're gonna do this for maybe 5 to 8 reps. If you're looking at somebody who's doing this for more of a cardiovascular thing, we're gonna go ahead and do about 10 reps for that. Okay, moving on to the kettlebell high knee. We are gonna now bring that bell into one hand, and we are gonna hold that posture up, and we are gonna hold our knee up in one side for 3 seconds. As you do this, the base leg that you're standing on is gonna stay locked out. You're gonna keep your whole line over your heel as you go, and your hips are gonna wanna drift forward. So we're gonna hold that shoulder up, we're gonna bring this knee up, and we're gonna hold for 3, 2, 1, and then we're gonna put that foot down, and we're gonna do the other side for 3, 2, 1. Now, what you're fighting down there is your ankles trying to collapse. So you're holding that ankle steady. Your other arm can be out here for balance, and you are holding a tight grip on the bell because we want the connection through the whole shoulder and trunk as we do this. Looking at it from the side, we're gonna go ahead and switch sides now because we've done one side, okay, and both legs. Now we're gonna go up on the other side. So we're gonna go 3, 2, 1. Bring that leg down, position your foot, and hold for 3, 2, 1. Now, we're gonna switch sides again. Go again, 3, 2, 1. Next side, 3, 2, 1. Other side, hold for 3, 2, 1. We're making sure we're breathing. 3, 2, 1. Now, if you want to keep going, let's go ahead and hit another 3 reps if you are warming up, where you are alternating on each side. And then if you are working this into a workout, we're gonna go ahead and do those 10 reps this time. Going into the kettlebell lunge, we're gonna bring the kettlebell back into one hand only, and you are now going to go into a step back lunge. Keeping your posture and your belly tight, you're gonna step back into a wide enough lunge that you can go down to your knee, but we're not gonna take it to the knee today. We're just gonna drop into a lunge hold, about a quarter lunge. We're looking for the knee to stay pretty much over the heel in the front. The feet are nice and glued down. The heel in the back is very high, and the knee is bent. We're gonna go ahead and switch sides with the bell. Holding there for another 5 seconds. We're gonna hold. And now we're gonna come up. We're gonna take the other leg back. We're gonna sink into here. Now, remembering that we're working on this scoop, okay? So now as we step back, our belly has a tendency to arch here and kind of come out. So we're gonna tuck, and if you notice, that causes the knee in the back to bend. So we're gonna go ahead and switch sides. You can notice this is causing the abdominals and specifically the obliques to have to work extra hard in this stabilizing position. Go ahead and bring that leg up, and we'll switch sides again, and we will continue doing that for another 3 reps if you're warming up, or a total of 10 reps if you are working out. The very last thing that we're gonna do before we go to the ground is we're gonna do a kettlebell deadlift. This is gonna go back in both hands. At this point in time, we're gonna bring the feet to a hip width position. This is gonna emphasize more of your hamstrings and glutes versus that inside line that we started with in the very beginning. Feet are straight, shoulders are back with that T position of the collarbone. Elbows are nice and straight. We're gonna go down. We're gonna come down with a neutral back, and we're gonna feel those hamstrings stretch back there. So what this looks like from the side is as you go down, you're gonna send your hips back. You're gonna keep your belt close, holding that belt close. You're gonna continue to lower yourself down until you feel a strong pull. So this might be up here for you, okay? But what we don't wanna do is we don't wanna shift forward, and we don't wanna shift too far back either. We wanna be right over that midfoot like we were talking about, and I want that bell right next to my legs, okay? We're gonna go down, sink into that hamstring, and come back up. We're gonna go down again, sinking, 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 getting into the nice tight spots back here between the cheeks here, and then back up. And then you're gonna go ahead and perform another 3 if you are warming up, or you are going to do a total of 10, okay? Again, as we're doing these reps, we're taking deep breaths in through the nose, out through the mouth. We're making sure that we're getting good positioning every time. So that means if you're new to this and you don't really know a lot about form and putting your body into these positions, you're gonna take a little bit more time. Going into the floor part of this, we're gonna start with some kettlebell drags. So you're gonna take the kettlebell in front of you, and then what we're gonna be working on is we're gonna be working on a plank. So our core is gonna be very, very focused here, and then a lot of the shoulder, and we're gonna be doing some traps and lats with this drag that we're gonna do with the belt. Now, here's the deal. If you have issues holding yourself on the ground with your hands like this, that is due to the fact that we sit all day and we're like this. Okay, so if you want to be working on that, that is something that you want to start working on in the day, kind of getting your arms open, putting your hands out. This stretches this whole inside line, allowing for better circulation. So numbness, tingling, pain in the hands, this is all coming from lack of being able to rotate your hands in this direction. So doing this, you can also elevate here. So say you have a step and you put the step here and you're just going to get into a push-up plank on whatever elevated surface that you have. Okay, and so if you can't go to the ground, you can bring this up to, like, say, a coffee table and do it on the coffee table. Although your coffee table does have to be a little bit bigger because of the kettlebell that we're going to do. So the kettlebell is going to go basically behind your arm, behind your hand. You're going to get into your plank with a wide foot, and you're going to make sure that your back is not swayed. We want it hollow is what it is called, or round your spine. Okay, and we're going to hold that. We're going to hold our shoulder blades away from each other, pressing into the floor, and we're going to take that belt with the opposite hand and we're going to put it down on the other side. Okay, so you're going to feel a little tilt. Okay, now we're going to go to the other side. We're going to take that kettlebell and we're going to bring it back over and onto the other side. Okay, so now we're going to do it again. Making sure we're breathing and also holding that belly up and keeping your tail scooped so we can stay rounded. Let's take a rest at the knees and go down to the elbows. So this is a good spot to be kind of working through some opening here, moving your neck around, taking some more deep breaths, focusing on just feeling your spine, stretch in different places, giving your hands a moment to relax. Let's go to a kneeling position, and then let's bring the arms up and down a couple times. When you are doing a movement in one direction, which is right now we're rounding the back, we want to find the opposite direction that we are working in order to ensure tension doesn't build to a point where we start to get into some nerve pain or some extra strain we're not looking for. So by getting your arms up and down, you're doing the opposite of what you're doing in your plank. You're rounding in your plank. In your snow angels, what I like to call these, you're nice and straight and you're getting this overhead extension. Some other things to think about is when you do your overhead, do not arch or bring your hips forward or hunch forward and do your position. You want to be lined up, belly tight, and as your arms go up, you're going to feel all of that stretching, and then you're going to come down. And little by little, that should get easier, but it shouldn't be easy to do because you're trying to get into stretching the parts of your trunk and the parts of the muscles you're working. Okay, so next thing that we're going to do is we're going to get into some kettlebell crunches. So now again, if you're doing a warm-up, you're only going to do about 5 of those sets. And when I say 5, you do a drag on one side, a drag on the other, that's 1. And then you do 5 of those. If you're doing a workout, you're going to do 10. You're also going to understand too, as we're doing this, you're scaling it down based on what you are able to do. It should be, if you've been doing this for a while, it can be a moderate to intense workout with the understanding that position is going to give you the best benefit. If it is something that you're new, you're probably going to be watching this video and just hanging out with me for a little bit And then you're gonna be able to start punching this up. And again, just kind of being patient with yourself, because these are all good movements to do every day. You can literally do this workout every day, and you're just getting circulation, and you're getting good blood flow, and you're getting muscles engaged, that mind-body connection. Okay, moving on, kettlebell crunches. So we're gonna lay down now on our back with the knees bent. Okay, so we're gonna hold the knees bent. We're gonna take our belt, and we're gonna use the other hand, and we're gonna bring it up above. Okay, so if you have a watch on, this is kind of a problem, so I'm going to go and turn this watch. Okay, so now at this point, what you're going to do is you're already holding your belly in. So if on the ground, if you feel a very big gap on the, like from away from the floor, you're going to pull your belly in towards the floor so that there is a tiny space between your lumbar and the floor. For right now, only a tiny space. So now we're going to put the other arm up next to this arm, and then you're just going to crunch up to the ceiling and then come back down and just rest here on the floor with your head back, and then you're going to crunch again and come back down, and you're going to repeat that. Okay, now we're going to go again. So 5 if we're warming up, 10 if we're not. We're going to switch sides safely. You can kind of put that belt down, set your hand back onto it. You are holding it like you're the palm in your hand, okay, but I'm also grabbing it. I don't want to just let my joints take the bell. I want a good grip on the bell, and I'm using a strong elbow, okay, a locked out elbow, which some people have a hard time with. So understand, we are not leaving our elbows bent like this, okay? We are holding into the shoulder joint. We do not want to go into the elbow joint, okay? So here we go. So we got our feet planted, by the way, okay? Feet should be about hip width apart, okay? Toes should be straight. We're not out and doing some weird stuff with our knees, okay? We're going to keep actually the knees not out to the sides, but just a little pressure out so they're not rotating in, okay? Going back into those crunches, you're going to go up, come back down, up, come back down, repeat 3 to 5. Now, this hand also can be either palm facing away from you, or it can be palm facing towards the inside, okay? Both are fine. The one facing away is easier position, but might be a little bit too much extension for people sometimes because of the fact that, again, we do not live in this world. Most of the time we are in this world. So this, again, you can do from the side, and if that takes some of the pressure off the wrist, okay, and puts you in a better position, you can still do the same crunches. Okay, after the crunches, what we're going to do is we're going to take a minute, and we're going to let the arms open up. Even if you are in the middle of a workout, it's really good just to take a second before you hit your other set. Again, depending on your intensity, you could do this beforehand and then just go right through and do them all at the same time. So we're going to take the bell now, and we're going to take the bell itself, okay, and we're going to hold it up above our head. So now at this point, I've got my feet rooted down. I've got a very small space between the floor and my lumbar. I've got my top ribs down. So this is something, another thing we're looking at is here, okay, these ribs here, they like to stay upright, and we need to pull them down. So again, your upper back should be completely on the floor. The only thing that should be off the floor a little bit is just a tiny bit of your lumbar. So again, this is what we're working towards. Now, if you're not able to do this, or you're feeling like real tight in the chest, that's because your body is restricted in those ways. And so what you're going to be doing is, over time, you're going to be loosening yourself up in order to get into this and feel better. And you're going to notice that your spine starts to feel less compressed because you're actually decompressing your vertebrae as you do this. Okay, so we're going into the bell, holding the bell itself, so the handle's pointed away and behind me. Okay, I'm going to keep my elbows tight, and then you're going to hold that belly in and just barely go back. Okay, and then we're going to come right back up. Okay, so now we're going based on how I feel. So if I feel real strong here, okay, about right here is where I can tell, like, I'm not going to be able to maybe come back up. I'm going to go ahead and come back up. And I'm going to go right back down to that spot that I can control. and then I'm going to come back up. Okay, now, as you do this, you may notice you get a little bit more distance or more further back as you go, but that is also based on how you're feeling. So if you're, and also the weight of your bell. So, you know, this bell is a 12-pound bell. Okay, so if you're using something heavier, it is going to take you longer to get further back because you're using a heavier bell. Okay, which you can still do. What you're doing is you're activating your lats. Okay, you're activating your triceps in this extension phase. These are all really important things that our body is not achieving throughout our day-to-day. So those are great things to be doing. So just remember when you're doing it, that is the idea of this, is to open up the lats and engage them, open up the triceps, engage them. But if I flare out or I bend my elbows, I lose that. Okay? So moving into the very last one, we're going to come up to the top. We're going to go into a kneeling position, and we're going to take this bell, and you are going to take it up and curl it up to you like you're taking your knuckles to your face. Okay? And then what you're going to do is you're just going to turn your knuckles into you. Smaller bell. Okay. So what we're going to do is we're going to have this bell sitting in the crook of the arm. Okay, so now I've got basically my fingers brushing my jaw, and you can see the outside line or the inside line of my arm. Okay, so that's how we're holding the bell. So if we're looking in the mirror, you see how it's kind of on like a parrot? Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to just do some side leg extensions. So holding the arm out, being very careful, we're just going to bring that leg out, and we're going to bring it in. And we're going to do that again. Okay, now again, we're going to repeat that for about 5 times, or 10 if we're doing a workout, and then we're going to go to the other side. And we're going to repeat that one for the decided reps based on what you guys are working on. And then we're going to go over to the other side. Now again, this goes up like you're curling it. You're going to bring it out and the elbow up, and you're going to think about your fingers sweeping your jaw. Okay, the inside of your wrist is facing out. You've got the bell in the hand, and it's resting much like a parrot would on the shoulder. Okay, this is called a front rack position, and it's just forcing more abdominal work and a little bit more shoulder work. Okay, so again, we're going to repeat for our set based on the number we're doing. As you're doing this, you're keeping your belly tight, and you're working on trying to stay as balanced and stable as you can. You're not just leaning over and bringing your leg out and moving around. We're holding still, which is going to instigate more of that abdominal control, more of that hip control, more of that shoulder stability. Okay, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and put it all together in a workout, and you guys can follow along with me. All right, let's take a couple big deep breaths. Put the arms over the head a couple times.